My European friends, you need to understand that Europe consists of two types of countries. The first type is small countries. The second type is countries that do not know they are small countries. Of course, this is a great insult to Europeans. You can imagine that for the rest of the 21st century, Europe is just going to be an item on the dinner menu among great powers. Whoa, the Munich Security Conference. How entertaining. I'm going to bring back Professor Jin today. He's going to talk about his take on the Ukraine war and the ongoing Russia-US negotiation effort to end the war. And at the end of the video, I'm going to give you guys my take. Here we go.
2月12号呢，美国总统特朗普和那个俄罗斯。
On February 12th, the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, had a 90-minute phone call with the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin. They focus on the relationship of US and Russia moving forward, and of course, how to resolve the war in Ukraine. Both parties seem to be willing to end the war quickly. But how? With the limited amount of information, my take is that the United States will force Ukraine to make concessions to satisfy Russia. This includes not allowing Ukraine to join NATO, make territorial concessions including the 4 Russian annexed oblasts and also Crimea. In addition, a Trump-Putin face-to-face meeting seems to be scheduled as well, perhaps in Saudi Arabia. I think this has been a huge shock to many people. Ukrainians must felt hopeless by now. You can see it on Zelensky's face during a recent interview. I swear he was about to break out in tears at any moment. It's obvious he's been betrayed. His country has been placed on the dinner menu. He is not eligible to join the negotiation. Putin, on the other hand, wants to address the root problem of this war. I think what he wants is for Ukraine to stay neutral permanently. In addition, he will want to stop NATO expansion eastward, a security problem for Russia since the end of the Cold War. Furthermore, US and Europe need to respect Russia's status as a great power and treat it accordingly. Of course, I would expect there are more concrete requests, such as taking off sanctions and release the Russian frozen assets. I think majority of the ruling elites in the United States and in Europe will be against Putin's demand, especially Eastern European countries close to Ukraine. So to put it this way, Trump's offer to Putin, this carrot that Trump is dangling in front of Russia, already reaches its limit. Can Trump and Putin reach an agreement? I think it's not so easy. According to Viktor Orban, the Prime Minister of Hungary, if Trump and Putin reach an agreement, then the United States' support to Ukraine will be officially over. And without the support of the United States, it will be difficult for Europeans to continue to support Ukraine because Europeans are divided and lack centralized leadership. So Ukrainians will be in big trouble. Russia, on the other hand, it is in a semi-war economy, and the potential military strength it can put forward is much higher than that of the Ukrainians. Remember, Russia has not fully mobilized yet, but the Ukrainians have mobilized many times and now the recruitment age is down to 18. If war continues, the entire Ukrainian race will be sacrificed. Very tragic. In addition, Russia's economy is not in big trouble, but Ukraine is not looking so good. So Viktor Orban's prediction that the war will end within 6 months is not impossible. Russia, on the other hand, might want to end the war before May 9th and want to invite Trump to Moscow to attend the World War II Victory Day ceremony. The negotiation probably started already because there was a military aircraft from US landed in Moscow on the 13th this month. It must carry someone important enough to engage in negotiation. My guess is that the White House National Security Advisor Mike Waltz was on that flight, was equivalent to Jake Sullivan in the previous administration. The Munich Security Conference was exciting. J.D. Vance lecturing Europeans. Marco Rubio was very active as well. The US Secretary of Treasury went to Kiev to demand mineral resources as payment for war debt. There's a joke going around in Chinese social media. It goes like this. According to Trump's plan, land belongs to Russia. Resources belongs to USA. Glory belongs to Ukrainians. So the world needs to prepare for the Russia-US agreement. The sacrificial lamb here is Ukraine and Europe. I participated once in a Berlin summit in Germany years ago, and the German defense minister was there. He told his European audience the following: My European friends, you need to understand that Europe consists of two types of countries. The first type is small countries. The second type is countries that do not know they are small countries. To me, Europeans are in this war because Americans dragged them into it, and it has cost the Europeans dearly. I feel sorry for Europe. They have been used, and now peace negotiations are taking place and they are not even allowed to join. Of course, this is a great insult to Europeans. You can imagine that for the rest of the 21st century, Europe is just going to be an item on the dinner menu among great powers. To Donald Trump's America, Europeans should pay for the security of Europe and Ukraine, while the US will pivot to Asia to focus on China. That's the recent video from Professor Jin. Let me know what you guys think. I'm so glad I made a series of videos regarding my geopolitical philosophy and my take on the Ukraine war right before the Munich Security Conference and J.D. Vance's epic speech. Judging by the recent development, I think my assessment of reality is fairly accurate. I know majority of my audience are pro-China, pro-BRICS, but we often disagree on the current political structure here in the West, both in the United States and in Europe. And all these ongoing events should act as a compass for all of us to recalibrate our understanding. Like I said in my previous videos, Ukraine war has now entered the most dangerous and uncertain phase, and I want to quickly summarize what we should look out for in the coming weeks and months. Let's talk about the United States first. Donald Trump and his administration is taking a huge gamble here, both domestic and foreign. From my point of view, they are acting too hastily against the original, ruling establishment, which risks serious repercussions. Elon Musk is taking away the cheese from those ruling elites, and now Trump is making huge adjustment in his foreign policy as well, which will destroy many powerful elites' profit model. Many Chinese geopolitical analysts have sounded the alarm bell that Trump and Elon Musk might risk physical evaporation. Okay. I guess this is where even some of my more experienced audience were caught by surprise because they think Trump is just going to follow the deep state foreign policy by the book, right? I don't blame you guys because even Professor John Mearsheimer said he was caught by surprise in his video yesterday.
But before I do, all I want to say is that on Tuesday morning, the 12th, I had one view of the Ukraine conflict. And by the afternoon, I had a completely different view because the Hexeth speech had taken place. In the meantime, President Trump had announced that he had talked to Putin. So almost, instantaneously, I did a 180-degree turn.
So from my perspective, Trump and Musk need to prioritize their own personal safety above all others. Again, I want to emphasize that I'm not some Trump Musk, lover when it comes to US policy. But at this point, everyone should understand that internal US politics is deeply fractured right now, and that is being demonstrated in this massive shift in foreign policy as well. It's not good versus evil or anything. It is just different. When it comes to the Ukraine war, Trump talking directly to Putin, skipping Europe and Ukraine, means that Trump did not reach an agreement with the deep state, at least not yet. So Trump really needs to play his card right, in the right order. Can he really afford Russia's demand? Does he really have the power to suppress the deep state controlled Ukraine and Europe? If a Trump-Putin agreement is reached, can Trump actually deliver the negotiated terms? That's something to look out for. Next, let's talk about Russia. Putin right now cannot let his guard down. Russia has not yet won the war, okay? First of all, Ukraine and Europe are clearly in a disagreement with Trump, and there's a chance that pro-war entities will risk escalation to derail the negotiation process. This interpretation might come in the form of direct boots on the ground or unconventional attack on Russia. A corner piece is often the most dangerous. Second, Russia needs to take into account that Trump is going to be here for 4 more years at most. That's assuming Trump didn't end up like JFK. So Russia is unlikely to put faith on long-term commitment from the West and would need to drive a hard bargain in order to secure a long-term security, a long-term peace. And that's assuming Trump can even deliver short-term commitment, which Trump might not even have the power to do so.
And the wind favours us this time.
Don't count your eggs before they're in the pudding, Mr. Calloway. Still, if we can close this gap and get up behind us, you may well be ours. Touch wood.
Yes, don't count your eggs before it's in your pudding, Mr. Putin. Now to Europe. I agree with Professor Jin's prediction here. I don't see any hope in Europe in the short term, unfortunately. And I insist that I know Europe much better than Professor Jin because Professor Jin is an US expert. The biggest problem is that Europeans are just way too brainwashed by the ruling elites and also way too divided. They are drowning in naive ideology, and that's reinforced by relatively high standard of living over the past few decades. So the likely scenario is that the living standard in Europe will continue to fall to a point that people will force to wake up to reality. That's when true leader can emerge and make real changes, and we're just not there yet. My advice to Europeans is that try your best to avoid war, first of all, and second, keep all trade open as best as you can. Be realistic with your strength. Stop being an idealistic, zealot. From my experience talking to Europeans in general, it might take the continent a few generations to mentally adjust to new reality of this world. To fix problem, you have to admit you have problems. To become relevant, you have to admit you are irrelevant today. Just look at, you're not even included in the negotiation. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Europeans can send troops to Ukraine and show the world that it is capable to stand by itself, in which I'm actually interested to see that happen. I have hundreds, if not thousands, of Europeans leaving comments in my channel saying, Russia is not a great power, it is a dying piece of junk. What does that make you then? I honestly don't think watching those inspirational pro-Ukrainian and anti-Russia channels help. It just numbs your senses and prevent you from seeing the reality of this world. As for Ukraine, there's really nothing I can say at the moment that is not either a lie or just... I'll see you guys in the next video.